Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Shauna Raban. I'm the Division Director at Dell Children's Ascension here in Austin. And I welcome you all to Austin. I'm glad so many made it, and no, not keeping you with the bad weather here. And I'm sad that a lot of people had to cancel just due to the ice storm. We don't typically get this weather in Austin, although maybe we should think about changing the dates because this is the second year in a row we've had to go virtual for some of it. Last weekend, I know we were sitting on a patio in 70-degree weather, and it should be like that next weekend if anybody wants to come back or has hotel reservations they want to use or tickets. Give me a call. I'll be here, and I'd be happy to show you around the beautiful city of Austin. But Houston did a wonderful job doing a virtual presentation and doing a wonderful conference last year, and so I'm glad that they tried it out and it worked, and now we're going to have a hybrid method. So this may be the wave of the future. We've had great attendance. We had a lot of registrations this year. We have local people, regional people, of course, and then national and international attendees. So Joel, this thing keeps getting bigger. You're doing a great job. So at Ascension, we like to start all of our meetings with a kind of reflection, something to think about as you move through the meeting. And mine today is a reflection that by William Mayo, one of the founders of the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. He said, "The glory of medicine is that it's constantly moving forward. There's always more to learn. The ills of today do not cloud the horizon of tomorrow, but act as a spur to a greater effort." I remember going to my first endocrine conference. I went to the Lawson Wilkins Endos in New York, and a friend of mine and I would present a poster from our residency days. And I went to some of the meetings and some of the conference sessions, and I didn't understand a word they were saying. And I got really, really nervous because I said, "Oh my goodness, how am I going to learn all of this stuff? These people are so smart." And now I think if I went back to that conference, I would understand what they're saying, and I would have a lot of questions, good questions to ask. And that is what we're doing here. So we have trainees, some from fellowship. I think we even may have some residents attending this conference. And this may seem a little kind of above their heads, but then they can come back and look at that information later and ask the expert questions. And we have a lot of great experts here to answer them. Now, with William Mayo, he also made a prediction. He said that the New York Times in 1931 asked him to make a prediction about health in the future. And they wanted him to think 80 years from now and what health would look like. And he predicted that the life expectancy of the developed countries would reach 70 years compared to less than 60 in 1931. And he was right. In 2010, the average life expectancy is 78. But what he did get wrong is he said contagious and infectious diseases have been largely overcome, and the average length of man has increased. So he did not predict that these contagious and infectious diseases would come back and impact our lifespan in our lives. So, we can predict things in the future, but we always got to pivot and realize that there's always going to be more to learn, and life is going to throw some different things at us. So, okay, a little bit of housekeeping first. We're going to talk about CME. This part's a little confusing. I'm sorry. Ascension's CME is a bit cumbersome, but once you've got it down, I think it will be really easy. And we'll go over this later in the conference too to help you log in. And then there was an email that you should have received when you registered before you participate, if you pull that up. But you're going to want to go to the Ascension CME. Cloud CME, so that link up there. And you will be, if you're not an Ascension employee, you will be able to put in your own email address and a password and create an account. And once you register, you can start doing the rest in terms of downloading for your attendance at the conference. And then our activity ID is 5353. So, and again, we'll show these slides later. I can print out some handouts that they provided. When you're going to text, you can text or scan the QR code throughout the event on the website, or you can pair your phone to it. So when you download that Cloud CME, you also need to put the Cloud CME as a contact in your contact list, and then text your phone number that you're using for your registration to it, and it will link those, and then you can start to use your phone for the Cloud CME. Another thing is we are offering, I think it's 9 hours of CME, even though if you do watch the recorded sessions, you can get much more in terms of educational, but the way that the program was set up was a live event. So if there are 2 speakers for CME at the same time, you can only claim 1, but you're more than welcome to go back and watch the recorded session. But unfortunately, we can only get 1 CME credit because they're considering this a live event. So if there's 2 sessions at 10:15, you go to 1, you can only claim that 1, even if you watch the other 10:15 later. All right, and I'm just going to run very quickly. This is part of us getting credit for CME, is that we have to go over everybody's disclosures. They'll probably be in their slides as well, but I'm just going to do it quickly to make sure that it's out of the way, that it's accounted for. Dr. Aga had no relevant relationships and is not using any off-label use. Dr. Chalu is an advisor for Medtronic, but will not discuss off-label or investigational use in presentation. Dr. Dahia is not have any financial disclosure, not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Francis does have some stock options with Amgen, Genentech, Johnson & Johnson, and Merck, but is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Gibson has a grant research support from Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals and Mandos LLP, and is not discussing any off-label use. Krista Gregory does not have any financial disclosures and is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Kerr has no financial disclosures, not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Gunn, Pharmaceuticals, but is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Lejar has a grant research support from BioMarin Pharmaceuticals and is on the Speakers Bureau of BioMarin, and is on the advisory review board membership for BioMarin, but is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Mahmood has nothing to disclose and is not discussing off-label. Dr. Daniel Mack has nothing to disclose, is not discussing off-label. Dr. McCann Crosby has no financial disclosures and is not discussing anything off-label. Dr. Meyer, also no commercial interest to disclose, not discussing off-label. Dr. Mistra is paid a consulting fee from AbbVie and Sanofi, and is a member of the advisory committee review board for AbbVie and Ipsen Biopharmaceuticals, and will not be discussing any off-label use. Maria Monge, any off-label use. Dr. Oberfield is no financial disclosures and not discussing off-label. Dr. Oden, same, has no financial relationships and is not discussing off-label. Dr. Silverman is paid a consulting fee for Pfizer, OPKO, and Interis Pharma. He's also an advisor for Tolmar, Endo Pharmaceuticals, and Novo Nordisk, but not discussing any off-label. Dr. Sisley is a speaker. She's on the Speakers Bureau for Rhythm Pharmaceuticals, but is not discussing off-label uses. Dr. Steelman is an independent contractor, including research for Pfizer and Ascendis. He's on the Speaker Bureau for BioMarin and is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Paul Thornton has grant research support from Pfizer and Novo Nordisk, is not discussing any off-label use. And Dr. Tosseur is a Pfizer for Provention Bio and is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Triggersted does not have any disclosures and is not discussing any off-label use. Dr. Wagesbach is paid a consulting fee from Bayer, not discussing any off-label investigational use. All right, and then so here is the QR code that we're going to be using, and if you have difficulty signing in, you can. We can also, if we need to, I think we can do a manual download, but I will again provide those handouts for you if you're having any trouble. And then finally, I just would really like to thank the PESTOLA committee, especially Joel Steelman. I've been told this is PESTOLA's his baby, and he really, he spends a lot of time and effort into this conference. I usually just kind of show up, drink my coffee, and listen to all these great speakers, and it takes a lot of time and effort behind this, starting months and months in advance. And my son, he plays for a little sports league, and they give a sportsmanship award at every game, and Joel Steelman is our sportsmanship award for the day. So. And then we also had a lot of help. Dr. John Oden, Dr. Jeannie Turgestad, Dr. Melissa Hand, Dr. Ricardo Gomez are all on the committee, and they all contribute and are present at those meetings and help get the meeting agenda together and provide advice and look at abstracts, and they're very, very helpful. Many of them are going to moderate today, but couldn't make it due to the weather and some COVID restrictions, but we're glad they're going to be online virtually, and then they're also participating virtually. I'd also like to thank Dr. Susan Nunez. She's going to be one of our moderators today, along with Joel Steelman. Daphne Consulting, she's our event planner, and she just did a wonderful job trying to, some of you, she tracked you down and found you and got your presentations and made sure that all the CME and everything was together. She was very organized. Hasita Basler was our CME or Children's Ascension for helping sponsor. I'd also ask you to go see our sponsors exhibitors. They provided money to the PESTOLA LLC, not to the PESTOLA conference, but they supported it and were very generous this year because they were so excited about having everybody back in person. So I welcome you all, and this is going to be a great conference. And Dr. Susan Nunez is going to introduce our first speaker. Oh, yes.